Hello again. 2 words for you. Spreadsheets and coding. Well, I know technically that's 3, but just ignore the and, all right? Spreadsheets, coding. We really like them both. And we want more of them, don't we? Of course we do. So if you love them as much as that, then this episode may be a bit of a disappointment because our guest will be talking about data automation and how the future of your business will involve much less in the way of spreadsheets and absolutely no coding at all. That's coming up. From the heart of the City of London, I'm Kyle Hannon, and welcome to this podcast from the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, the unified voice of the AICPA and CIMA. Every week, we share insights from inside the finance and accounting profession that can help you in your business to do things just that little bit better, no matter what business you do and no matter where you do it. My guest this week is Rachit Khator. He is the founder of Stackby.com. Stackby is a collaborative database platform that helps non-techies, people like you and me, well, definitely me, helps create and customize your own software for your business. Now, before Stackby, Rachit spent 4 years working in venture capital as well as in product management for a large Fortune 500 company in Michigan, USA. He led investments and worked with over 15 technology startups. So he's been part of a few successful multi-million-dollar exits. He holds dual master's degrees, one in applied physics from NIT Surat in India and another in entrepreneurship from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He returned to India just 2 years ago, because this is now early 2021, so I think that makes it 2018. He went back to build Stackby, and he did that after years of struggling in dealing with multiple spreadsheets and applications. So there's a man who feels your pain and is here to talk a little bit more about how we can make that go away. So he's here to give us the inside track on how we can, as I said in the beginning, move away from spreadsheets and build no-code tools for your business. That's why this episode is called Data Automation, your business's no-code future. Welcome to the podcast, Rachit. Where are you joining us from today?
Hi, Kyle. Thanks a lot for a great introduction. Really appreciate you inviting me over for the podcast. I'm actually in India right now. I come from this city called Surat, which is just 4 hours north of Mumbai. It's a very popular city in India. Surat is actually one of the fastest growing cities in the world. And, we have, amazing history. The first time the East India Company, landed in India was actually in Surat. And Surat is today popular, for diamonds and textiles. So it's called the Manchester of the East because there's large, textile production facilities, as well as 90% of the world's diamonds get polished in our city.
Tell us how things look for you at the moment in Surat, because I think, as I understand it, you're about 5.5, 6 hours ahead of where I am here in the UK. Spring has just begun. So at the moment, outdoors right now, still cold, still chilly, about 5 degrees. How are things outside your window?
Oh, it's pretty good right now. So it's close to around, I would say, 26, 27 degrees Celsius in Surat. So it's pretty temperate. It's windy, from where, I am sitting right now. So far, so good. And, I live actually near, the river. So, we absolutely get, some amazing breeze, in the evening. Which is just about evening time right now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how's your life changed during the pandemic? Are you speaking to us? You said you're sitting at home looking out across the river. How has the pandemic changed your 9 to 5? I mean, what would you normally be doing on a day like this?
Yeah. So the post-pandemic world has, I think it has affected the way we have structured our teams as well. So initially when we started, we were working out of an office, all the team members, part of an office, and, we would collaborate there. But now post-pandemic, everybody's distributed. So we have set up our processes in such a way that, we, effectively work, remotely. So I think that has completely changed. And we believe that we've become more productive, since the time we have started, doing remote work. And we are now taking it very seriously in terms of moving forward. I think we will be a remote distributed team, moving forward.
All right. So we know how you do it, but what exactly does Stackby do?
Sure. So Stackby is basically a combination of spreadsheets and databases. So what we've realized is since the last 40 years, people have been using Excel sheets to manage their work, right? And 90% of those people still use Excel or spreadsheets to organize information. And what we have come to realize is, while people can manage their, structured workflows on Excel, they cannot manage their unstructured workflows on a tool like Excel. And that's where, Stackby would come in. So what we have done is we have kept the ease of use of a spreadsheet, but, added the functionality of a database to allow any non-technical person create and customize their own tools the way they want. So if they want to organize data, collaborate with their team, work remotely and get things done, that's where, Stackby really comes in handy.
And what type of client types do you engage with? What sectors do you do most of your work in? And when you are working with a client, what pivot points do you typically focus on? Because you did talk about moving beyond spreadsheets or connecting things in new ways. So where when you work with a company or a client, what is the change that you work to see happen with them?
So we are generally very sector agnostic, Kyle. We have customers across hundreds of industries, and we are essentially working with any team, that is looking to organize their data and automate their workflows in a single place. So that's where we really shine. So we give all the building blocks. Think of it as Lego for software. For anybody to create and customize their own software the way they want. So you would typically start with an Excel looking interface, but then it slowly becomes, this powerful interface where you can build your own relational database out of it. So, how we do it is, we have 25 different types of column types that allows you to, configure your data types according to your needs. And it is structured in such a way that, that each of those column types would only allow, that data type to go in, within that column. So, versus in a spreadsheet, it's a cell-based format where, that cell can be essentially anything. It could be a number, it could be a date, or it could be a text. Versus in Stackby, because it has a database format, everything is configured at the column level. So a column is essentially, the first class citizen, in Stackby. So with all these building blocks, we are essentially giving, the end user the ability to create, their own tools, whether they want to use it, to manage their projects, to manage their customers, to manage their, marketing campaigns, to brand campaigns, to even like managing their product launches. So we have seen, customers, use it, across, varied, use cases. And we essentially make it possible through, our pre-built templates as well, where, we have launched these pre-built templates so anybody can get started, within a couple of clicks in 2 minutes, by using one of those templates.
And you've been doing this, as I mentioned in the introduction, since about 2018, and it's been really successful since then. According to your website, it says that there's been significant take-up of this type of service. So that obviously means it is helping a lot of people in ways that gets them to see some benefits, some results pretty quickly. Give me an idea of how widely this has been taken up.
We actually launched Stackby in January 2020 to the world. And since then, we have acquired more than, 5,000 plus, paying customers across 150 countries. So, and the post-pandemic, I think things changed pretty drastically for us because now most of the teams were moving remote. Most of the SMEs and SMBs were looking for tools to manage and organize their data remotely, and a lot of them, for a lot of them, it took it, the whole post-pandemic world took it by surprise. And they still had to organize their data, manage their processes, handle their team, and, get things done. And, that's why we could see, a lot of, lot of customers coming about, just when, things were looking more remote and distributed. So actually the pandemic helped us, grow. It propelled our growth. And we see now more and more SMEs across the world, signing up to the platform and, utilizing, all the building blocks, that we are providing to, for them to like organize and, automate their work.
Yes, and that's the big word, isn't it? We, on the podcast, we focus on the technologies and the tools that, certainly from the perspective of the accounting and finance profession, have been very much a part of the digital transformation of the profession. But that's not just something that happens to accountants and finance professionals. This is a technology that is transforming business worldwide. And you have said that, we have come from a history built in spreadsheets, but what we're now doing, and I know that many of our previous guests have talked about how accountants and finance professionals are becoming more and more like data analysts. So they are working with data and understanding that these skills that they may have got from their spreadsheets are being used and deployed and tied together with other tools in new and powerful ways. So you've said that what you do is you help people start in the world that they know, spreadsheets, but then mold all of this data into a more powerful tool or system of tools or interconnectivities with other tools that help teams and businesses. And it can happen quite quickly. So, is that the only way that this connects with the finance and accounting profession? Tell us a bit more about the links between what you do and the wider profession as a whole.
As you see, most of the finance and accounting professionals are relying on spreadsheets. And because we have a similar interface, people are using Stackby, in this world to manage expenses, to, manage their bookkeeping, even transactions, or even connecting, their QuickBooks or, Xero or, any accounting apps to maintain, data backups and track their processes. So we've seen, a lot of like finance-based use cases coming about, on the platform as well.
All right. So that, I think, brings us very nicely to exactly why you've joined us on this episode of the Go Beyond Disruption podcast. The episode is called Data Automation, Your Business's No-Code Future. That's an interesting title. Just unpick that for me.
Yeah. So we have, Kyle, so we have traditionally seen how software, has ruled the world, right? And how it has dictated us to work, since the last, 4 decades. But now that trend is changing. As end users, as business users, we are now in a position to dictate how software should work. So that mindset, that shift is happening right now. We live in super interesting times. We didn't know, pandemic would happen, and, people have to suddenly start looking at different ways to collaborate and, work remotely. And that's where, softwares are now playing, a critical role, or cloud is playing a critical role in connecting all these people together. We've seen, Microsoft and Google and all these big companies moving to cloud, right? Offering more and more services on the cloud, where traditionally it was on-premise. Now everything is moving, to the cloud. And as you see, the key elements of any business is, process, people, and technology, right? And if you look at, any processes, processes are essentially data and how you can automate that process, how you can automate that data, right? Hence, we have this title, data automation. And today we have all these tools available for us to non-technically build and automate those processes, organize that data effectively. And that's where you see, the whole new world of no-code tools and no-code applications opening up. So you've typically seen there are 2 types. One is low-code application, that requires minimum programming to build end tools. So versus no-code, where you don't need any programming or any technical knowledge to build your own tools, right? So, we have just seen that, recently Gartner published a report saying that, 65% of all the app development in the next 5 years will happen through low code and no code application platforms.
Wow.
It's crazy, right? So I'm saying, 3 out of 4 enterprises will rely on a no code or a low code system to build, applications, to build their custom workflows.
Am I right then in saying that I hear you talking about low code or no code, but at no stage are you saying more code? And I think when people in a digitally transforming business world look at how software and technology is becoming so crucial to every process and every part of how a business does its business, people always think, well, more technology means more code, but you've said things are actually going in the opposite direction. It doesn't mean less data. It just means no code, which is interesting. And that, I think, may surprise people, especially from that tech perspective, because this means that the key to a business's future is not coding. What makes you see things that way?
You hit it spot on, right? So I think the key to business future is definitely creation versus coding, right? So GitLab CEO, he famously, said it that the future of coding is actually no coding at all. So, and I think we are truly moving towards, that kind of world. Right. And just imagine if an average spreadsheet user, there are close to around 1 billion spreadsheet users today. And if they become app creators, right, the world would completely change. The way businesses work, the way processes would, work would completely change if an end user, a non-technical end user is given an ability to create. And, we have seen it, from a Stackby's perspective, that because the tool had so much to offer, it really empowered people to build new things. And a lot of them, were surprised, to see that there is a tool like this that exists. And, we were managing our, processes in, as if it was in the 1980s. So, we have seen such, reactions from some of our customers, coming on the platform. And they just feel so empowered because they can do so much more. They don't have to rely on any technical team or any developer to build tools for them. Today, customization is in the hands of, the people, right? And if we are able to give, tools and building blocks for any non-technical end user or a spreadsheet user to create those tools, the world would look, completely different, right? And that's why we see, big companies like SAP or Salesforce or even Oracle now, looking at, more easy to use, customization functionalities where you don't have to hire, a development team or a development house to make those customizations. As an end user, you should be able to do it. So that's the world, we are moving towards. So I would say it's a creator's world now. It is not really, the world, for software. It essentially is the world for creators. And software will just be a building block or an enabler for, this creator world to explode.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned big changes happening, and it's certainly true that disruption never stops. I mean, that's why we have a podcast called Go Beyond Disruption. I want to just step back from code for a bit and talk about some of the changes that you've been seeing happening around you. I mean, since the pandemic, what new projects or initiatives have you at Stackby started working on? Because obviously this is it's a sudden age of compulsory remote working. It was something that most of us thought, well, that'd be nice if we could do that more often. Suddenly we are doing it all the time. Is that changing how you've seen Stackby's ambitions in the future?
Absolutely. So I think, at Stackby, the pre-pandemic world, the whole age of remote working, we were looking at, 5 years, 7 years down the line. But I think it just, deaccelerated, that timeline for a lot of businesses. You saw how Zoom grew into this multi-billion-dollar, company, in 1 year, right? I think they grew maybe 40 to 50x, during the pandemic, just because of, the whole age of, remote working suddenly, was standing right in front of our eyes, right? And that especially changed for Stackby as well. We have, come to realize, in the last, 1 year that, the tools that we were building, would have more collaboration features. Because it's all in the cloud already, you can already collaborate, on that database with your team. So we added more collaboration features, within our platform. And secondly, because people were hoping to integrate the software to more and more services. So we also tried to connect Stackby to, now over 2,000 plus applications that's out there. So, immediately you can start, automating your workflows, within Stackby.
Did you see people coming to you and saying, we've got all of these tools and other services which we've been working with, And we now have to figure out how to continue to connect with them, even though we cannot be working from where we were. I mean, were you surprised by the number of other services out there, or was this something that you always knew would happen?
See, we always knew that this was going to happen, right? But the sudden interest of it, it just exploded. So now more and more people were, asking about, connecting to different services and APIs and different tools, to automate their work. So we initially started with, integrating with Zapier, but then we immediately launched our own developer API, so that if people want to call data from Stackby and add it to any of the different services that they use, they should be able to still do it. And with all the native integrations that we added, it just meant that there were a lot of end-to-end use cases for the end customer.
And APIs, I think, is something I want to ask you about a little bit later, because that may be something which some people have heard about. Maybe they're using it, or perhaps they've heard other people talk about as a good thing, but they haven't really taken that into the heart of the business yet. So I think we'll be talking a little bit more about APIs and the basics of that in a few minutes. But I want to come back to the present by talking about something we do all know lots about, and that is something that you think deserves to be left in the past. And that's all those spreadsheets, all those manual processes. And you've got a particular way forward on this, haven't you? You've got a particular way of unbundling from spreadsheets. So
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when we talk about unbundling of spreadsheets, right, we immediately, look at, so spreadsheets are now moving to databases. So traditionally, databases have been for very technical savvy people or for, developers. So when we look at, Oracle databases or MySQL or, all these SQL type, databases, SQL or no SQL databases, we immediately think, okay, it's not for us, it's for developers, right? To build and manage, large scale data systems. Now, what we are trying to do is essentially giving, that kind of functionality, like a typical SQL or a NoSQL, and let the end users build relational databases, right? And that's what we call unbundling of the spreadsheets. Because if you look at it, all the software, all the CRM systems or project management software or tools that you use is essentially powered by a database on the backend. And if we are able to give you the access to that database where you can, use it and customize it according to your needs and don't need a developer or, any technical skills, just your basic Excel skills would do, that's the world we are moving towards. And that's how we see that, we are unbundling, the spreadsheets. We are essentially giving a spreadsheet style database to an end user so that they can create, their own, data pool. They can scale it within their team. They can keep that data organized or even like connect to services to automate that work.
So you can keep the data while at the same time leaving those spreadsheets behind. Right, we'll be talking about APIs and much more about how we can unbundle from spreadsheets and explore the benefits of a no-code future for our business as we adapt and adopt more technologies. We'll be doing that in a minute or two. Continuing our conversation with the founder of Stackby.com, who is joining us from the city of Surat in India. We'll be talking to Rachit in a minute or two. Let me just remind you now that we are one of many podcasts from the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. That's AICPA and CIMA. You can find us at beyonddisruption.com. More than 150 episodes in our archives talking about the technologies and, of course, the aspects of personal and professional intelligence that are taking us and our businesses and our profession beyond the disruptions we're experiencing right now. It's all about digital disruption, and you can find out more about that too at the website future.aicpa.org, future.aicpa.org. And if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you get your music, and you can get more of those new episodes as they come out straight to your mobile device or your computer. So you can do that on your podcast app, online, and of course you can explore links to that in the show notes to this episode. All of that at gobeyonddisruption.com. We'll be talking about APIs and the no-code future for your business. And my guest is Rachit Khator. And he's reminding us how a company can connect things to other things, to platforms, to services, and various data sources. As we leave spreadsheets behind, we keep the data and we continue to connect with that in new ways. Rachit, tell us how connectivity can work. You talked about remote working, but this is something which isn't entirely new. You mentioned something called APIs. What are those?
Sure. So API, just as a primer, right? It stands for Application Programming Interface. So it's basically like an intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other. So there are services available that allows you to, connect these APIs without having to learn, any technical jargon. So there are tools like Zapier or Integromat or, if this then that, essentially allows you to connect between two apps. And they do it through, a very visual, interface.
So that explains a little bit more about what an API is. And if I in a business have never used an API or this kind of connectivity tool or service before, what does it look like when I implement it? I mean, what will it do for me? Where would I see the benefits first?
Yeah, so essentially, just to tell you how we are doing it at Stackby. So we have connected, to over, 40 plus services. And how we are doing it is you can connect a column to this third party service. Say, for example, this service could be Facebook ads, or it could be YouTube, or it could be MailChimp, to automatically pull in information out of these services. And, once you, call that API and we make it like a completely easy way to connect to those APIs, and it automatically pulls in the information right into your cells. So once you open that cell, you can select which data you want to show it, in your columns. So once the information comes into the cell, you can configure it into different columns, and then you can refresh those cells in real time to bring the latest information. So this whole process is a completely no coding way of, working with APIs. So, I think that's how, APIs should be. And, as I was talking that, APIs have become, super important in the last 10 years. So we see more and more use cases, around, services. And we see more and more people using those services to automate that work. And, we've seen like just from 2015 to 2020, there was just 300 public APIs in 2015. And now in 2020, fast forward, we are working with more than 25,000 public APIs. So that means more and more people now want access to those APIs to be able to connect between applications. And, that's how, we are trying to make it easier for any non-technical person to be able to, call that API as well as, use it, to your, to their own, use case.
Once we have those APIs set up, of course, there are lots of tools and ways that we can tie these things together. The more, the merrier. But all of this means a bit more learning, a bit more research, and obviously all of that takes a bit of time, which for many of us, we've got more time on our hands than we expected. But all of that, of course, is going to change once the pandemic starts to end and with that lockdown start to ease. Things will become much busier as business picks up again for most of us. So obviously that means that we have to look at the resources we've got in our business. And while I'll talk a bit more about APIs and process automation shortly, I want to jump back a little bit to what businesses would be more familiar with right now, especially those in the accounting and finance profession, and that is the spreadsheet. And we have said that we will be looking at the no-code future, leaving spreadsheets behind and moving beyond them. But of course, with someone in the spreadsheet world, they would have picked up a lot of fairly common, fairly useful skills from working with spreadsheets that will help them actually leave these spreadsheets behind. So what would some of those skills be?
I think the most important skill, if you talk to any, spreadsheet user, is the ability to do VLOOKUP, right? The ability to connect between, different sheets together. And how we are making it easier is, we have a column type called link, that allows you to create relationships between two tables. And if you're able to create those relationships, you could easily do, a lookup. So you don't have to do a VLOOKUP, and write a long formula. It is essentially, a couple of clicks, in a platform like Stackby, where you can look up information. Once you link between those two tables, you can look up information from one table to another pretty easily. And you can even do conditional lookups or even aggregations where, if you want to summarize, any data, from those linked records that you have linked across tables. So what we are trying to do is, making the whole VLOOKUP world, super easy, and making it super, I would say comprehensible, to an end user. A lot of spreadsheet users, don't even know what VLOOKUPs are, and they have to, do a lot of trial and error to get to the right, VLOOKUP formulas. So what we have done is we made it super intuitive, for an end user to be able to link first between two tables and then do a lookup, fairly easily. So I think that is the one, common spreadsheet skill, that will definitely help you, leave, spreadsheets behind and move to, databases, move to relational databases that are as simple to use as a spreadsheet.
That's quite reassuring. So that means that the better you know your spreadsheets, the better prepared you are to move beyond them, because there will be things that you already know instinctively how to do. Well, it feels like instinct, but of course it's been built up as a skill through years of practice. And the understanding of the interconnectedness of data within the spreadsheet means that you'll be well set up to be able to start using those understandings and that understanding of process to move beyond the spreadsheets, to start to use things like the APIs and the things we're talking about. And that takes me back to the question of how a business which doesn't use those tools or services at the moment, data-wise, they might see themselves as unconnected. And when we say they're unconnected, we don't mean they're not online. We mean they're not connected data-wise externally. How would they start using APIs to connect to other services and platforms? You talked about if you understand process, then you're already well set for a new future. Explore that for me.
So I think, as you rightly said, process is very important. So first, any business needs to identify whether they have already moved to the cloud, right? If they are working siloed, within their computers using, on-premise, softwares, like Microsoft Excel or any of those tools, first they need to see is, can they move their processes to the cloud? And if they have moved to the cloud, then most of the applications, become super easier to get connected to. So, now you can talk, once it's on the internet, once you're on the cloud, you can now connect to all these different services that's out there, right? So the first thing is move to the cloud. Second is, map your processes, with the applications that you use. So for example, if you're already using Excel or Google Sheet, you need to map the same process in a tool like Stackby, which is a database, and sort out that database, super easily. And the way you can do it is through, importing, your spreadsheets to a tool like Stackby and, start, mapping your columns and mapping your data types accordingly. Once you have that sorted, you can now see, okay, which other tools and services do I use? And to be able to use those tools and services, what kind of workflow will I achieve, if I connect to a particular, tool or service. So just to give you a very small example, if, for example, you want to connect Google Calendar to Stackby, where you want to see, you want to manage all your meetings in a nice, database. So, what you can do is you can go to Zapier, you can connect, Stackby to Google Calendar. So for example, any new event created in Google Calendar can send a new row, within Stackby.
Rachit, I'm going to ask you just to put your finger on one tool you mentioned there. You mentioned something called Zapier. That's an API tool, isn't it? Just give us a quick idea of what they are.
So it's basically a connector platform. Think of it as a matchmaker between services. So they are, a connector between any two tools. And what they've done is they've made it a super easier interface to connect between two tools. So, they, within, Zapier, there's more than now, I think 2000 plus applications that you can get connected to. And if we get connected to Zapier as Stackby, we immediately get access to those 2000 applications that, Zapier is already integrated with. So rather than building individual application or individual integration to each of those services, all we need to do as a service provider is to connect to Zapier, and we are now connected to more than 2000 plus apps.
Fascinating. So that means in many cases, these are APIs or API tools that many businesses may already have heard of, or perhaps in some small way been using, without actually realizing the true power at their fingertips, which is brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you talked about process mapping. We look at, are we ready to go into the cloud? What do we do next? What's the final step we need to take?
Yeah. So I think the final step is essentially once you have, the tools, the cloud, and your data organized, then you can start automating, right? It is as simple as that. You start connecting, your existing tool to, the different tools that you use. So for example, if you're using accounting, QuickBooks, how you can connect QuickBooks to Stackby so that every single entry, an expense entry goes into QuickBook can also create a new row within Stackby, right? So where you have, data mapping, data redundancy, across different applications. And then also, how do you bring your team, be a part of this? And that's where you share, your whole workflow with the team. You assign them different roles, and then you start collaborating in real time. So that's how, you can move to, managing and organizing your workflows.
You said the magic word, managing. Surely whenever you set process maps up, you have to have a clear idea of what the end goal for any process must be.
Yes.
Can you just unpack that for a bit? How, once you get a process going, do you have a clear vision of where all of this is supposed to lead you? Does every process have a particular end goal? Does it lead to an understanding or an ability to analyze more clearly or provide you with specific business intelligence? I mean, if we understand the processes, we also have to understand what those processes are supposed to lead to, don't we? How do we do that?
Absolutely. So I think that's where, the process efficiency would come in. So what is your end goal when you're mapping that process? Is it to save time? Is it to increase productivity? Is it to reduce the manual tasks, that your team is doing so that you can save those hours every week, versus, manually patching information or copying paste, information across tools? That goal needs to be, clearly identified. So, and as you were asking me, so, once you connect all these, APIs and tools together, you can essentially save, at least an hour per person in your team every week. And that's what, we are going after. So for example, if you're a team of 10, you're essentially saving 10 hours every week once you automate those processes. And that is a very conservative estimate, in talking to people, right? When we are talking to our clients, we ask them, how are you getting the benefits, when you're connecting all these native APIs or, APIs through Zapier, and they immediately say that we're saving tons of time, right? And we hired that data analyst or that, that data guy who was managing those processes, manually. And we don't need that person anymore, right? Because we have now automated those workflows, and we can move that person to a better role, within the company. So it's about, increasing efficiencies overall, right? Not just process, but how you're saving time, how you're saving time within the team, and how are you empowering your team to do more and to be more productive.
That sounds like a really good opportunity. And I think that puts us very nicely on track to my next question, which invites you to look toward the horizon. Let's get ahead of the curve and look at the next disruption that you see coming up in the space of data analytics or process automation and digital transformation. In terms of the accounting and finance profession, what do you think is the next big change that lies ahead in this context for them? And how do they prepare for it?
I don't want to talk about blockchain here, but I think everybody understands the concept, right? That is a huge change that's coming, right? From finance, accounting standpoint, smart contracts, talking about, how you can enable solutions on top of, the whole blockchain ecosystem. So the whole fundamentals of money is also changing. And we have seen it in 2020 and, how money is going to change, in the world. But looking at it from a creator's perspective, looking at it from, software perspective, I think the key to business future is essentially creativity, right? As you rightly mentioned, it's not coding. That anybody can become a creator of the tools that they need to manage their lives and work, right? And when we are empowering so many creators to work together, then just imagine once they start sharing their creations to the world, things will accelerate so much more, right? So you will get solutions to almost 80% of the workflows that you typically work with, right? You will get ready-made solutions, because somebody took an effort of spending half an hour, 45 minutes in building, for example, a template on Stackby and then sharing it with the world, right? So all you need to do is just click on it, customize it your way, and start moving, right? And all of this can happen on day zero. You don't need to hire developers or wait for weeks for some solution to materialize for your business. You can do it on day zero, hour one, right? And that big change is coming, right? With all these no code, low code applications coming right out and about, all these different tools that are coming. There are website builders, there are no code app builders. You can immediately build like a mobile app through drag and drop interfaces, or even these no code databases like Stackby that offers a lot of automations, a lot of like organizational capabilities to managing data right on your fingertips. And once all of these three things tie together, the whole world becomes then a Lego block, right? Where you're just we have all the Lego blocks right in front of us, and we can build our own castle out of it, right? And each is to own. So we'll see more and more creators sharing information. Today there are just 25 million developers in the world. Now imagine a billion plus spreadsheet creators become spreadsheet users become app creators. So the whole new world of development will also change, and that's the future we are moving towards.
All right. I think that is a good opportunity for us to do some more signposting for anyone who'd like to find out more about this topic in general, or perhaps about your work in particular. It's all very well to do stuff online, but you're also looking to build a new community of creators?
Yes. So the first resource is definitely, we have created like, close to around 150 templates. It's on Stackby. You go to stackby.com/templates and you get to see all the templates that our team has created, working in tandem with our customers across, different industries. And we are also launching this new maker community, that essentially launches, next week, which is, March, we are talking in March 2021. So, essentially in March 2021, we are launching this maker community where now end users, can launch their own template, right? And share it with the world. So I would, really like to invite people, in the finance and accounting profession to start, to first of all sign up on Stackby and then start converting, their own process templates into these future ready templates that they can share it with the world. Right. And, we already have, few, customers, in this domain, consultants, accounting agencies, who are already, have already started, to create those templates. So, I would see more and more knowledge sharing, coming about, in the coming days.
We'll put links to all of those in our show notes. And when it comes to Rachit Khator, where can people catch up with him online or in real life? Have you got any conferences or events coming up over the next few months as the world starts slowly to unlock and people start to connect in real life again? Give us an idea of what the next few months in 2021 look like for you.
Absolutely. So, the easiest way to, catch up with me is on LinkedIn. Just tell me, send me a message on LinkedIn and connect me on my LinkedIn profile. I can share, the link on the show notes. But at the same time, we are now, starting to do more online events where, we'll be hosting, online webinars and Q&A sessions, with, the community. And, I would also, invite the association members as well as, the community here to join us, in one of those online events. So we'll have periodic events, starting from mid-March of 2021. And, we'll have it every 15 days or so. So where we'll discuss how you can map your processes, how you can, for example, create a custom CRM, for your business, or a custom project management tool, or how you can manage your finances super easily, on a tool like Stackby. And we'll also take up a lot of, Q&A. We also have a community forum, which is community.stackby.com, and, where people, essentially share, templates that they build, and, different features and integrations and use cases, that they're looking at, within Stackby. So definitely, there are a few links that I would, love to add, to the show notes here. And, just reach out to us, on any of those online events or our community forum, and we'll be happy to engage.
Finally, we also ask our guests to remember the expression, been there, got the T-shirt. So you've been a guest on our podcast. So I invite you to imagine that we're giving you a Go Beyond Disruption podcast T-shirt. And if you were given this T-shirt to customize and you could print one sentence on the front, a sentence that delivered a simple message for a listener to take away from your conversation today, what would that T-shirt say?
Interesting. I think from what we've spoken, I think it should say anybody can create.
Anybody can create. Sounds like a great T-shirt. Thank you very much for joining us. That is Rachit Khator, Chief Stacker of Stackby. We'll have to leave it there, but as we've said, the show notes will have links to all of the resources that Rachit has talked about. And if you're a listener on a mobile app, you just need to open your podcast app, click on the episode's info icon, and that'll work on a smartphone or tablet. And you'll see the episode notes. In a computer web browser, you can do exactly the same. Open it in your browser. You'll find everything right there. And while you're online, for more on turning disruption into opportunity using the technologies and the skills that we've talked about today, that includes process automation, RPA, data analytics, you can visit our new portal at future.aicpa.org. That's future.aicpa.org. You can find courses, webinars, and other professional development resources, a very useful mix of free and paid for resources. So go and have a browse. You can also find us and all our previous episodes at gobeyonddisruption.com. You can comment on our shows, share episodes with your own networks, and get all our future episodes automatically as they're released, completely free, which is a great price. So thanks again to my guest, Rachit Khator, and of course, thank you for listening wherever you are in the world. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. You've got something from it. And if you have, go tell someone else about it. We'd love to know what you think and what you'd like to hear more of. And you can do that by going to gobeyonddisruption.com and leaving a comment on the show page. Simple as that. From the AICPA and SEMA office in the heart of London's financial district, I'm Kyle Hannon, and we'll be back soon with more conversations that help you and your profession to go beyond disruption. Till next time, keep listening and keep safe. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond Disruption, brought to you by the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. Learn more about today's topic at AICPA-CIMA.com/disruption. This podcast is designed to provide illustrative information with respect to the subject matter covered and does not represent an official opinion or position of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. It is provided with the understanding that the association, its affiliates, and subsidiaries are not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional services. If such advice or expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. The association, its subsidiaries, and affiliates make no representations, warranties, or guarantees as to and assume no responsibility for the content or application of the material contained herein and expressly disclaim all liability for such damages arising out of the use of, reference to, or reliance on such material.